You're now live.
You're on mute, Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Adrian, Mr. Guzman, did you say we had quorum?
Yes, we have quorum and we are live streaming now.
Okay. Today is December, what date is it? December 17th. And it is 3:02 p.m. This is the meeting. I'm calling to order the meeting of the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley Board of Directors meeting. And with the board members, let's see, the board members are, state your here when I call your name. I'm going to do that. Mayor Pro Tem Gandara.
Here.
Jeannie Quintero.
Present.
Okay, sorry to have woken you up. I'm so sorry.
The mute button wasn't working, so I'm hollering over here.
It's okay. We can hear you very well. Thank you. Manuel Sanchez.
Present.
And Yvonne Flores, that's me. I'm present, I think. Most of me is present. But quorum, there's 8 members on the board, right? Or how many?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez. There's 6. We have 6 plus our ex officio members.
And ex officios, according to David Dollahan, presumably and hopefully in the bylaws, the ex officios count towards the quorum.
They can, yes, Madam Chair.
Are they also voting? Then they're voting members too.
Only in the event that the board is not
We don't have a quorum.
are not, yes, then they act in that capacity.
Mm-hmm. Because missing, we have Counselor Abeta Stuvey had a conflict. It looks like Lynn Allens isn't here. Ramon Gonzalez isn't here. And then, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 7 members, 6 members, and then our ex officios, and there's an empty seat. So if the well, we better move on. I think we can move on with this meeting. It's just that if they count, if we don't have a quorum, are they able to vote on resolutions? Okay, then we have a quorum. So we have Tessa and Ramon and Lynn. So we have 1, 2, 4. Okay, all right. So the meeting has been called to order. It was 3:02 p.m. And we've determined that there is a quorum. And are there any changes to the agenda? Does anyone have any changes to the agenda?
None for me, Madam Chair.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Then if we don't have any changes to the agenda, may I have a motion for approval of same of the agenda?
So moved. Gandara?
This is Commissioner Sanchez. I'll second that motion.
Thank you. And may I have a vote? Who does a roll call now? David Dollahan used to do the roll call.
Sounds like I see Ms. De Leon on the call. Would she be the one? Or Clint can do it?
I know I did it last meeting. That was my question before we went live. I was asking Ms. DeLeon if she is standing in for David Dollahan. If she is City Manager Peely's ex officio member.
Actually, maybe she's here today in that role, but the email I received from Mr. Peely is that it'll be Eric Enriquez. He's a person who I think replaced David Dollahan, because there's 2 assistant city managers. And Barbara DeLeon right now is an interim city manager. And then Mr. Enriquez did, it's weird not to call him chief. Mr. Enriquez did send me an email saying that he'd be here. So I don't know. Ms. DeLeon, what do you know that we don't? A lot, I'm sure, but.
No. This is Barbara DeLeon. And yes, I was previously designated to sit in for David Delahan. Eric Enriquez has replaced the vacant position that was previously occupied by Bill Studer. It's just the order of the appointments, just FYI. But actually, all the assignments are still being made. This one, and we're scheduled to meet on that later this month for finalization. So I'm happy to sit in at this point, and if Eric is able to log in, then of course I defer to him.
Okay. So everything is still like up in the air and not quite settled. So we'll just proceed because we do have a quorum and we have you. So thank you for being here, Ms. DeLeon. May I have a motion to approve the agenda? Oh, excuse me, I already did that. So I'll call, okay, so let me just call the names. Or Clint, do you want to do that?
I can do that for you. Yes, Madam Chair.
Well, thank you. That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Ex officio board member Quintero.
Yes.
Board member Gondra.
Here. Oh, wait. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. Let me get in the game here.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Madam Chair Flores.
Yes.
Okay, passes, Madam Chair.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Clint, and thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the reading of the closed meeting statement of November 19, 2020. So let me just, oops. Here it is. Closed meeting statement of November 19, 2020. The Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley Board of Directors met in closed session on November 19, 2020, and only discussed those items as stated in the posted notice. The purpose of the notice was to discuss personnel matters of the director of the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley, which is closed pursuant to section 10-15-1-H, open paren 2, close paren, NMSA 1978. Present, Chair Flores, Board Member Sanchez, Board Member Gandara, Board Member Abey-Testuvi, Board Member Ellens, ex officio Member Quintero, ex officio Board Member Dolahan. Staff member, Executive Director Clint Thacker was invited, strike that. Ex officio Board Member Dolahan was not present in that meeting. That's incorrect. And Ms. Quintero, were you present at that meeting? Ms. Quintero?
Yes, I was.
Yes, that's what I thought because I had your name. Staff, staff member, Executive Director Thacker was invited at 5:08 p.m. The closed session began at 4:32 p.m., adjourned at approximately 5:20 p.m. Okay, so that's been done. Minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity? Did all the board members have an opportunity to review the minutes? Yes?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Madam Chair.
May I have a motion? Are there any changes to the minutes of November 19, 2020?
I have none. Gandara?
None?
Commissioner Sanchez, I don't have any either. And I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the board meeting held on November 19th, 2020.
Second, Candida.
May I have a vote? Mr. Clint? Becker? Do you want to call roll on that?
You're on mute.
Sorry, I was talking to myself that entire time. So here, this is for the approval of minutes from the November 19th meeting. Ex officio board member Quintero,
Yes.
board member Gondora,
Yes.
vice chair Sanchez,
Yes.
and Madam Chair Flores.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you very much. Next is the reports and presentations. Oh, and again, I'd like to note for the record that Councilor Beta-Stuvey's absence today is due to a conflict. Right? You know, because we had the calendar change and all that, so it affected her calendar. So I just want to get that on the record. She had other city business that took priority at this time.
Madam Flores, I also want to note that board member Ellens just signed on.
Oh, thank you. And the
Do you
time.
still want me to include ex officio member Quintero on the roll call?
Well, yeah. Well, did he participate? No, because he didn't participate on that motion, on that item.
Well, I know. I mean, just going forward.
Oh, hereforth, going forward? Yes, we should do that. Yeah.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez. I believe if we do have a quorum, then ex officio member Quintero her vote wouldn't be necessary during the roll call.
Correct. And that's exactly what Clint wanted to confirm.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. I misunderstood.
It's okay. You've been around this crowd too long. Sorry. That's what happens. Okay, so we approve the minutes. Okay. Next is reports and presentations. City and county ACO reports. So do we have Gino and Mary Lou here?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. As usual, I will defer to the county to go first if they choose.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Gino.
Let me share my screen here. Let me start.
And just state your name for the record.
Mary Lou Ward, and let me start my presentation, and I will share my screen here. If I can get that started here real quick. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
The presentation?
Yes.
We're seeing the, I guess the display version. I don't know if you could share the other screen. If not, I think it works.
How's that? Are you seeing that there? Let me try it again real quick. I'm not sure why it's doing this. Let me, okay.
I think that works.
Okay, let me go ahead and start here. And everybody can see the screen. So we'll start with the number of calls that we took in for November. The dispatch calls for November were 461 calls. The self-initiated calls that the officers took in for just animal control, of course, not codes, were 103, and the assist calls that they did were 13, so that gave a total of 577 calls for the month of November. Going into the reported stray animals for November, that was reported stray animals were 197 animals that were reported strays. We picked up 31 stray cats, 64 stray dogs, which was a total of 95 stray animals that were picked up. In addition to those animals that were picked up, we also picked up no owner surrender cats, 14 owner surrender dogs, 19 sick or injured animals, 6 animals that were on a welfare hold, and 6 animals that were sheltered at the quarantined at the animal shelter. Under the field RTOs, so returning the animals to their owner in the field, for November, we returned 19 animals, and so that gave us a year-to-date of 347, and there's a 3-year comparison. Explanation of the geo-districts, I just threw that in there because I had taken it out previously, but I put it back in there, so in case we had anybody new in there that wasn't sure about those, you could always go back to those slides to review that. So in those geo-districts, we picked up, on the stray animals that were picked up, nothing in District 1, so I know Commissioner Sanchez will be happy to see that. District 2, we had 2 cats and 7 dogs. District 3 with 5 cats and 16 dogs. District 4 were 5 cats and 12 dogs. 5 were 4 cats and 18 dogs. District 6 were 4 cats and 2 dogs. And District 7 were 6 cats and 9 dogs.
Mary Lou?
Yes.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, but Adrian, we have Eric, Assistant City Manager Interim, wanting to get in on the call. I guess he's listed right now as a attendant.
Okay, I'll add him as a panelist.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, Mary Lou.
Okay. And then going into our bite calls, looking at our bite calls for November, we had 10 bite exposures to humans. 2 of those exposures were to, we also had 2 exposures to other animals. One of those was, we had a rabies suspect that was a rabies submission that went in, that was tested, that was negative. The animals that were current on the rabies shots, that were 3. We had 5 animals quarantined at the Animal Services Center, 1 at the Court Hold facility. 3 animals were still housed from a prior case that was at the Court Hold facility. 3 home quarantines, and then 3 animals were gone on arrival. And our reasons for owner release, we had 6 that were too aggressive. We had 3 of the animals that the dogs were very sick or dying and they couldn't afford veterinary care. 4 of them that were getting evicted and couldn't keep the animal. And one of them, it was a transport for the town of Mesilla that was involved with the crime. So those were the reasons for those owner releases. Now, on our court cases for November, we had 2. Out of those 2 court cases, only 2 charges we had. So that was a lot lower than what we normally have. 13 hours of regular time went into that. And the outcome of those, we had 1 warrant that was issued and 1 guilty plea. And those 2 cases, one was for rabies control and 1 was for restraint violation. And reporting on our SNAP numbers for November, they reported 57 dogs that were neutered, and cats that were spayed or neutered. Cats that were spayed or neutered were 41, 20 microchips, and 19 rabies vaccination, which gave us our year-to-date 131 dogs that were spayed and neutered, 96 cats that were spayed and neutered, 112 microchips, and 103 rabies vaccinations. Now, this is something that I've added that has never been done before, and I just wanted to share it with you all. It's called, I just named it On the Funny Side. because we don't always get funny stories, but when we do, it's fun to share them. So I thought it was fun to share this one. So we get a call that came in for a horse that was in a house that's has been there for a while. So inside of a house. So the horse is looking out of a window and sometimes changes the windows that he's looking out of. And he sometimes moves his head. So we go to respond to this horse that's inside of a house. So our findings are that upon arrival, there's a horse looking out of a window. However, the horse isn't real. The horse is a blanket. The property owner does move the blanket around from time to time from window to window. In addition, there's a fan blowing on the blanket that moves the blanket in a way that makes the horse kind of look like real. So if you could see the picture there, it's an actual blanket. It's not a real horse, but it kind of looks real from the road. So we responded to a horse that's not real. That's an actual blanket. So we thought that was a funny story to share. So I thought we would add that there. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
If I may ask, Mary Lou, is that part of your stats?
Well, the
Blanket?
responding is, but not anything else. Just the responding
Nothing.
part is.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Ward? No questions? Well, thank you very much, Ms. Ward, and thank you for that on the funny side. We need that sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. You're welcome. So, Gino, are you ready for your presentation?
Yes, ma'am. Let me see as soon as I can start sharing my screen. I think Mary Lou's going to have to unshare hers first, and then I can.
Oh, yes, that's hers. I thought it was mine, but it's hers.
Did I not stop share? There you go.
Thank you.
I can see all your emails.
And next one, Mary Lou, you're going to have to share the story about the tiger on the highway.
Yes, exactly.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Gino Jimenez. I'm the Animal Control Supervisor for the City of Las Cruces. I will present to you the November numbers, and we'll begin. So City of Animal Control we reported to 414 reported strays. Of those, 238 were GOA, meaning the officer did not have contact with that animal. We were able to apprehend 152. 146 of those were impounded at the animal shelter. 65 were dogs and 81 were cats. We were successful in field RTOing 30, and we were unsuccessful in field RTOing 6. So that 30 plus the 6 gives us a total of 36 identifiable animals. My next slide is the reported stray calls, a 3-year comparison. So for the month of October, for November, like I said, we responded to 414 stray calls. So for the year, that gives us a total of 4,653 calls. So if you look at the trend, we are way below 2019 and 2018. I mean, we can always, for this whole year, we're going to contribute everything to COVID. So that trend, hopefully, once we get relieved of this pandemic and we can go back to what we consider normal, we can continue that trend at where it's at. My next slide is our 3-year field RTO comparison. So like I said in my first slide, we were able to field RTO 30 animals for a total of 350 for the year. And again, we're keeping within our trend, except for last year, we were a lot lower than we were this year and in 2018. Hopefully these numbers will start spiking here soon. So the reasons we were unable to field RTO for were because chips were not registered and 2, because there was no answer at the phone or at the residence. A lot of times in the past, you'll notice that we'll also include that the owner was not home. They were at work, so they could not leave their work to come redeem their animal from the officer. So sometimes those animals will go to the Animal Service Center. But for last month, 4 were not registered, and 2, there was no answer by phone or at the residence. My next slide is reasons for owner releasing animals. We had 1 dog acting aggressive towards the owner. And as you know, we have limited the number of owner releases going to the animal services. Number 1 is if they pose a threat to the family or to the public, then for sure we will definitely take those animals in. So that's why number 1, it fits in that criteria. We had 1 that was taken in for medical emergency, and it was a euthanasia request by the owner. And then the 3rd one was an owner admission of a dangerous dog. Next is my mapping. This is just a snapshot of the map. I will open up the map here. Can you see my map? Can everybody see my map? Okay, I'll take that as a yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So here's my map of the city, and the map shows the stray animal calls that we responded to. The blue are dog calls, the orange are cat, and the little red dots are other. Those are anything other than dogs and cats. So I will zoom in a little bit more into the city and pan around a little bit slowly. If there is Madam Chair, if there is a particular district that you would like me to focus on, I can do so. The districts right now are color coded, so every district is assigned, every color is assigned to a particular counselor.
Thank you, Gino. I don't have any specific request. I don't know if Councilor Gandara has a request. I know she's always got a question about zooming in and seeing how many people, excuse me, how many animals really are there. There are. So.
You know, I missed it. If I could, Madam Chair, I'm sorry.
You'd like to see Mr. Jimenez, Officer Jimenez zoom in?
Absolutely.
Your district, which is purple, the color purple?
Did you go over the color codes and I completely missed it?
Oh, I can repeat that, ma'am. Yes, no problem. The blue represent dogs, the orange represent cats, and the small, kind of hard to see sometimes, but the small red dots represent anything other than dogs and cats. So at those, we're looking for skunks, bats, raccoons, bobcats, hawks, anything other than dogs and cats, squirrels.
Thank you, Gino. I meant the districts. You
Oh,
said they were coded.
Yeah, yours is purple.
yes.
I told you.
Purple. Oh, it's similar to my map that I have of my district. Got it. Okay.
Yes,
Yes.
yeah. It's your district.
And,
Got it.
you know, everybody has access to this map that can get on the CLC webpage. And simply if you click on the color-coded area, it will tell you whose district that is. So this one is Council Bencomos. Here we have Council Abeta Stewie, Council Vasquez, Council Gandaras, Council Sorgs, and then Madam Chair Flores.
Any unusual activity, Gino? More animals in one district than the other? Anything like that that we should be aware of?
Glad you mentioned that. Yes. In Councilor Abeta Stuvie's district. You'll see, you know, when the map is blown out, all you can see is like single dots. But if you're able to zoom in, then you can see this. Now, this was only for the month of November.
Wow.
There were 17 cats picked up from this one resident last month. And I'll give you a little history on this address. The resident contacted us back in late February to say that one of his neighbors was feeding the stray cats in the neighborhood. And all he requested at that time was that we speak to them. The officer went out there and saw that the resident had actually put bedding under an old abandoned inoperable vehicle. That bedding was to provide warmth for the cats. He knew that it was a violation of the ordinance, and he asked at that time that we only speak to the resident that was doing it. I sent an officer out there and he did that, educated them, did that, and they said they would get rid of the bedding and no longer feed. Well, when they stopped doing it, somebody else picked it up and continued to feed the cats there. Well, the reason that the gentleman, the resident, didn't want the cats there to begin with is that his wife is homebound and has respiratory issues. So the smell of the feces and the ammonia from the cats was adding to her symptoms, adding to her decreased health. So that's when she asked, or he asked, for traps. However, during COVID, we have suspended our trap program. He did purchase a trap of his own, and we will pick up traps out of privately owned cats out of privately owned traps because we can't leave them there. If we do, it becomes a care and maintenance or a cruelty issue. So that's why this number was so great last month. I will say that so far this month, that number has gone down dramatically. So we may have been able to handle the issue at this one residence.
Thank you, Gino. I appreciate that. Listen, in the last month, I have gotten numerous complaints about feral cats in the Mesquite Historic District. I know that we've been working on that, and there's been some education currently. But I also know that there was a cat colony there at one point that I know we worked on last year, and I got the impression it was a different individual. And so can you kind of highlight for me what you're seeing there and different things that are happening? Because, boy, they got the neighbors are pretty upset about it.
Madam Chair, Councilor Gondera, yes, through your email, we were able to respond to that call. The officer responded and did speak to the adult daughter of an elderly couple that were suspected of feeding the cats there. And the number of cats in that community right now, you're not going to see it in my November numbers, but you may see it in my December numbers.
Yes. Okay.
There is approximately 20 cats that are in that area. As we know right now, there are no feral cat colony permits. So feral cat colonies are not permitted within the city. The 6 that tried towards the end of 2019 hit that deadline of the sunset clause. So they weren't permitted after that. So a lot of people took it upon themselves to create these colonies on their own, even though that they weren't permitted. And I think that's one of the issues that we're having in this historic part of District 2, or District 1, I'm sorry. However, the officer did respond. He did note that there was 20 cats running loose in that neighborhood. He did ask the ones that were suspected of feeding to no longer do that. But that was only yesterday. So we're still, it's still in the process.
Right, right. I appreciate that, Gino. Yeah, I I know that as we move forward, we work really hard with, by the way, the ordinance that we're trying to bring forth, right? I think we're close to the end of that period of feedback. So I'd like to say, if any of you have feedback, please make sure that that's given. You received an email from Amber Dominguez kind of reiterating the timeframes and ensuring that if you had any feedback related to that. So I'm bringing it up because the Cat Colony was a huge, right, back and forth. And the idea, we heard a lot of testimony, or I wouldn't say testimony, but feedback from different people, from, you know, the bird community to the cat community, and determining solutions and strategies moving forward. So I know this is going to be a hot button item. And I just thought I would bring that up. And I think the advisory committee is starting to prepare their PowerPoint and information to be able to share with the city councilors related to that specifically, but other sort of things, kind of giving a synopsis of the work. And so I just thought it best that we bring that up and let you know that that deadline for giving feedback is quickly coming to a close, if it isn't already.
Madam Chair, Councilor Gondar, if I may add to that, I mean, if the proposed ordinance does get through council, I think it's going to take a tremendous amount of educating the public, because the community of Las Cruces, the city of Las Cruces residents have become so accustomed to seeing a stray, calling in a stray, and then animal control pick it up. However, if that ordinance goes through, the proposed ordinance gets ratified, then we're going to have to educate people to let them know that it is no longer a violation, that we're going to have to find the fixes in order for these cats to live a long, healthy life out on the streets. So, yes, thank you for that.
Thank you, Gino. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for that information. And so are you, Officer Jimenez, have you completed your presentation, or was there something else you'd like to add?
No, ma'am. I think this was the last of my presentations, and I will stand for any questions. But before I do, I guess I'd like to apologize for last month that I was not present. I had to take some time off. Honestly, it was my birthday, and my wife's and I anniversary, and then her birthday, the 18th, 19th, and 20th. So we kind of have a big celebration that week, those 3 consecutive days. However, because I am short-handed, I was not able to train somebody to do my presentation. So if it happens again, which I don't plan on it, I have shown Code Supervisor Mike Roach how to do my presentation. And in the case of my absence, he will be able to do that presentation for me.
Well, thank you, Mr. Officer. Excuse me. Thank you, Officer Jimenez, and apology accepted, and happy belated birthday and happy anniversary.
Thank you.
We
Yes,
suffered
thank you.
without you tremendously.
I saw it too.
Thank you.
Have a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Same to you. Thank you. Any questions? I don't see anybody's hands up. So again, thank you, Officer Jimenez, and happy holidays. The next item on the agenda is shelter statistics and activities. Mr. Thacker, you're presenting.
Yeah, I can as soon as I figure out how. There we go. Start video. All right. Do you see my slideshow up?
Yes.
Okay. So good afternoon. The current animal count of the Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley. I'm sorry, my name is Clint Thacker, Animal Service Center, Mesilla Valley Executive Director. The current animal count is 365. That includes 253 dogs and 112 cats, down significantly from what it was the same time last year, 546. The intake at the shelter continues to be low. This is because of the limitations that we put of COVID. So we're currently in the month of November was 321. That is 187 dogs and 129 cats. So a total of 321 for that. This lighter number allows staff to be able to care for these animals in the best way possible. And it also allows social distancing, and it allows less people coming into the center. So all keeping staff and also them healthy. We had one adoption returned to us in the month of November. That was for some behavior problems. We did offer for them all sorts of behaviors, and we have several individuals that are willing to do that. But these individuals said no, they didn't want the dog. So we were able to get that dog back. Again, we converted this slide into percentages, and I think it tells a better story. We had in 2020, in November of 2020, we had 77 adoptions. And that is down significantly from the 265 or the 34%. And we're going to be looking at that and looking at why. I think it's because November was a pretty crazy month with the staying at home orders going up and down. The surge that hit us in November, and also just the issues of calling and getting an appointment here at the center. Sometimes we're several weeks out. So we continue to have battle with that. But still, a quarter of our outcomes left via adoptions, so that's great. Reclaims, we had 16.8% of our outcomes were reclaims or owners coming and getting their animals. That's higher than it was last year at the same time. 32% of our animals went to rescues. Again, that's higher than it was last year at this time. Community cats, we only had 17 leave. That's 5%. Euthanasia, of course, is a lot lower, and that's what we like to see here, and that percentage is a lower one, at 18%. So it leaves us with a live release rate, even though all those numbers are a lot less than the 2019, again, that percentage means a lot more. So we're at 81.4% for our live release rate. Remember, 90% qualifies us as a no-kill shelter. So we're getting closer and closer. I think this is one of our best Novembers that we've had in a while. Our euthanasia reasons for cats, the number one reason is feral. And then dogs, the number one reason, other than owner request that does not go against our numbers, is that medical or general medical reason. Feral will always, until we have some type of plan that we just talked about with the feral cats and have ordinances in place that will allow it, that will continue to be our number one euthanasia rate, or euthanasia reason for that. The other one that's kind of disturbing or annoying, as you could say, is this one I hear, the wildlife nuisance, and that's our other. It's skunks, pretty much. And so we're euthanizing skunks pretty much because they're skunks. They're a nuisance to somebody, so they get trapped. They come into here. Department of Ag does not allow us to release for some good reasons. One of those reasons is that if the skunk is sick, then if we release it out, it could affect the entire skunk population in that area. And skunks do some good. They're excellent at eating bugs and those things. So we can't and we don't want that. The other reason why they don't like us to do that, to release them, is because if we do a concentrated number in a certain place, then it affects the skunk population that way as well. So that's one reason why. We're trying to continue to look at other options for that. So the question is always, if we're only accepting the really sick and injured animals at the center, what would our live release rate be if we didn't have to have just those animals coming in? And this is the slide that we're looking at now. So 86.6%. We euthanized 19 animals that were sick or injured that came to us. If these animals were able to go to a personal vet or a private practice and get treatment, then maybe we might not have gotten those here at the center. But this percentage was requested by the board for that. Total visitors in November was 306. And again, of course, a much smaller number, the 2,842. For those that are listening for the first time, in 2019, we were counting everybody that would come into the center. So a mom with 3 kids, that would be 3 people. And then they would walk through the shelter and they might not leave, or they'll leave maybe with just nothing, just get an idea of what's in the center. And so now during COVID, we're making people set appointments. They're looking at the animals online. They're setting an appointment saying, I'm interested in this animal, and we only allow 2 people to come in. So the 306 is a much better number of actual people coming in to look at animals. It's not a family. They're obviously interested in this pet because they've called us, made an appointment. So 306 in November. Our total webpage views in October was 42,085. I think that's supposed to be November. Is 42,085, and Facebook views is 2,115. I wanted to know where these were, so I went back to where we started tracking them in August, for the month of August. Website views were 43,000. In September, it was 46,000. October was 45,000, and then November now we're at 42,000. So it's kind of an up and down, maybe a little bit of a downward trend that we're looking at on our website. But I'm glad to see that it's sticking around in that 43,000 or so average for our webpage views. Facebook is the same. In August, we're at 2,500 or 2,600. Almost 3,000 in September. October was 2,200, and November 2,100. So that obviously has a good downward spike to it too. We continue to do specials and plead for help. I think Facebook is one of our best places we have to get the information across to individuals. It's a lot of people coming to that. Again, my normal plug for the website views. Page views, remember that's not the number of people coming into the website or looking at the website. It is actual page views. So somebody comes to the website and they look at 5 dogs. That's going to be 1, the initial hit on the website, and then the 5 hits on each dog. So that would be 6 page views. So just keep that in mind. But we continue to put a lot of information on our website and our Facebook page just for those reasons of the great traffic that's going on there. And these are our pets of the week, is Abigail and Lana. And that's all.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thacker. I see that you're open for questions, right?
Yes.
So Commissioner Sanchez, do you have a question or?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just had a quick question for Clint. And I was just curious, I know when you talked around the visitors coming into the Animal Service Center, I was just curious as to, I know you were hitting on the significant difference, obviously, with the 306 versus the 2,800 from last year to this year. I just was curious, do you keep track of the percentages of those that come in and leave with having adopted, fostered, or any of those type of numbers? I would expect that, given like what you had said, that where they are taking the where they're coming in and making appointments, I would expect it to be significantly higher. I was just curious as to if you had that data.
I don't have it right here in front of me, but it's something I'll for sure look into and get back to the whole board about. I like that.
Yeah.
And that's all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Officer Jimenez?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, I was going to add some more information to what Clint brought up earlier about the skunks. I'm not sure if you were aware, but late last year, Assistant City Manager Dollingham, myself, Clint, and members of the U.S. Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services met to discuss reducing the number of skunks that would be taken to the service center. We did receive a proposed MOU that would reduce that number. It is right now in the final stages, getting signed at the state level. If it happens, then the Wildlife Services will be responding to our skunk calls instead of animal control, and therefore they will not be going to the service center any longer.
That's great news. Thanks, Gino. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
That's really good news. Officer Jimenez, so when was this MOU entered into and when is it going to be effective?
I know that it was signed by the chief last week or the week before, and then it had to go up to the state level in Santa Fe for final approval, and then it would be sent back, and that's when it would be enacted. That's when it would take place.
Okay. So we really don't know how long it'll take up at the state level, but it's coming.
Madam Chair, Mr. Fajardo, the representative for this district, got it done written pretty quickly. And it's just a matter of the director at the state level to sign it. I hope first quarter of the year.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Thacker? None at all. Okay, we'll move on to.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Sanchez.
Well, you just put your hand up. Just as
I just did. I slipped it in just because, based off of Officer Jimenez's comments. So I'm curious, what will be the MOU that's going to be entered with Wildlife Services? I mean, obviously, we have our history with them at the county. I was just curious from the city level. Was it going to be?
Madam Chair, Council Sanchez, right now we have a current MOU in place with the Department of Agriculture Wildlife Services that deals only in predatory animals. So what they will do is if any unprotected wildlife poses a threat to a citizen within Las Cruces, animal control will respond and try to spot the animal for them and keep an eye on them. If they have an agent in the area, they will come down and respond with us side by side and then dispatch or kill that wildlife so it no longer poses a threat to the community. So that MOU is already in place. The new proposed ordinance MOU would add to that any nuisance wildlife. So therefore they could actually answer all of our skunk calls for service.
So, Officer, well, I guess, like I said, I was just curious. I appreciate the information, and it's not in my purview, but I'm sure I'll be. It's something I'd be curious to get a little more information on. So, thank you, Officer Jimenez. I appreciate it.
Sir, I believe there is an MOU with them in the county as well.
Oh, I am. Yes, you're absolutely correct, Officer Jimenez. And it's the low sore spot with me because of the way in which it's being executed. But like I said, we've had our history reviewing it on the county level, which is why I was curious as to what was going to be entered into with the city. So I appreciate that. I understand what you're saying, where you're adding not just predatory animals but nuisance animals as well to your MOU. So I appreciate, like I said, I do appreciate the information, and I was just curious on the city level. So thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you very much for your question, Commissioner Sanchez. And does anybody else have any questions or anything someone wants to say about this? I don't see anybody's hand up. I do have to say that I'd like to see a copy of that MOU. I'd like to see, and I also, nuisance wildlife, predatory animals. Sometimes, and this is the experience I took away from the hearings over at the county. It seems that some of these, quote, predatory or nuisance wildlife is defined very broadly, and it almost seems situational. So I guess we'll have to talk to, I don't know, well, we have Mr. Enriquez and Ms. De Leon here. I think it's incumbent upon us to see what those contracts say, also from the county. So only because we're, there's certain areas that you can't tell if it's a city or if it's a county, especially my district out here in the East Mesa. So anyway, I'll make a note of that and try to get that. So yeah, some of the enforcement is quite disturbing, quite frankly. At least, the horror stories that came out at the commission hearings. And yeah, and it was, some of those hearings got pretty ugly, actually. Kind of like half of the chamber was pro and the other half was against, and it was like, showdown at the OK Corral. Yes.
Can I add something to that?
Yes,
In regards to our contract with Wildlife Services, they do give us a quarterly report on, and it's a very detailed report as to the nuisance animals, the animals that they go in, and if they have to euthanize any animals, the means of euthanasia, what the euthanasia was for, if they have to relocate animals, if the education they put out, if there's property damage. It's a full report that they give out, that they provide for the county. It's a quarterly report that we review, that they give out. And so we review it at our end, and then of course it's processed through. So I don't review it, and when I look at it, I don't see it as any unnecessary just to euthanize an animal, to euthanize one. I think they're very cautious, and especially because of that last meeting that they had, they try to do all means possible of education first before they do any kind of euthanasia. They put that fourth first. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Ward. And is there? And so your department receives that?
Correct. We do receive a copy of that.
Okay. Do you ever have, I'm sure you have like jurisdictional overlay with the city at times too, right?
Yeah, they do. There is some of it. I believe there's some on there. And so we just review it all, and it's got everything on there. It's very detailed.
Is there any way, it's addressed to you and to Officer Jimenez, is there any way, or Officer Jimenez, presumably your department also gets the same report that the county receives? Possible to get those reports and share them with us to see if we have any cross-jurisdictional issues?
Madam Chair, yes, ma'am. That was part of the stipulations in the contract, is that they provide a report to us as to the services of what they did within the city limits. I think what you may be asking is, when you say cross-jurisdictional, for animal control, because we are not sworn commissioned officers like regular police officers, I can't go into the city and enforce the ordinance. And county animal control can't come into I can't go into the county, and county animal control can't come into the city. That's why we have our own. However, I think because we are two different agencies, therefore it has to be in two separate contracts.
Correct.
But I believe that the report is going to be the same for each agency.
Okay.
And-
Would you be able to provide that for us, just to see the data there?
Absolutely.
Great, thank you. I think that would be forwarded to Mr. Thacker, and then Mr. Thacker can distribute it to the board. Yeah.
Madam Chair, in this case, I think it would be forwarded up through City Council.
To City Council?
Yes,
So it
ma'am.
would be forwarded to, I'm just trying to figure out how to, the appropriate channels without stepping on anybody's toes or doing something that is not, acceptable.
Sure. I believe in
so
this case, it would
serve
be.
it, you would serve. Forward it to city manager's office or to city mayor and city council or both? You're
Madam
saying
Chair,
yes?
I believe that it would be forwarded. The report would be initially sent to Chief Dominguez, who would then send it through assistant city managers and then up that way to council.
Great. Thank you for, so I had to get that. That's in my head. Thank you so much, Officer Harrison. Thank you again, Ms. Ward. Yes, Commissioner Sanchez.
I just wanted to add, and I would be glad to share it. Now, the funny thing is that even us in the county, while they may get it, I have not seen a quarterly report since the second quarter of this year. And I would say, my personal take is that it is lacking. I'm sure we could discuss it offline. But it does, while it might tell you how many number of animals were euthanized, strayed, whatever it may be, it does not tell you the method in which they were euthanized. It does not tell you how many had been tested as is required by the contract at the county for other diseases. It's just in general, they give you a summary that says, okay, this type of, they show you the number of animals captured, euthanized, whatever it may be. There is another section that says they use chemicals or or another method, and it just tells you the number, but you can't ever understand which animals they're used for, what events, what types, none of that. And so I felt like from what they've done in the county, it's severely lacking. And it doesn't, in my mind, it's never met the amended agreement that we had or contract that we had. It's been, but like I said, I'm sure we can take it offline because we could have it would be a long conversation on that one.
Wow. Well, yes, it would be a very long and very interesting and very necessary, and that's something that we can probably do, offline.
And Commissioner Sanchez, I would be happy to send this report to you. If you can give me, I can send it to your email if you'd like a copy of this full report that I got. It's very detailed.
Sure. No, I thank you, Ms. Ward. I appreciate it. Like I said, I think the information we had received previously from that had come through the county manager was some PDF reports, and like I said, when I've reviewed them, I don't know. Maybe they're a little different than what they provide you.
Right.
So I'd be curious to see because if that's the level of information they're providing you and it's different than what we've seen, I would love to have that information. So
Okay.
thank you, Ms. Ward. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Good. Yay. Yeah, I like that. See, we on the city council don't get report. So maybe this is something that I'll definitely communicate this concern or this request to Chief Dominguez to assure that we get it, and then we can see what we're dealing with. Just in terms of what's going on out there with all of our animals with our respective jurisdictions outside of the Animal Service Center. Wow. That was dynamite. Thank you so much. Wow. So let's see. So are we done with shelter stats and activities? Or is there any other presenters under this agenda item? We're done. Mr. Thacker, I see you nodding your head.
I don't have anything else to say. It's been great.
Thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you so much, Mary Lou and Mr. Thacker and Gino. The next is committee reports, and first is finance, and I believe Councilor Abeta Stuvey is now the committee chair, since Dolahan is no longer with the city, no longer therefore part of this board. And I believe Commissioner Sanchez is going to present in her stead, or did I misunderstand?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I know we didn't have a meeting as the Finance Committee this a month specifically, but I know we have Mr. Saffel that's on that will be able to share some of the latest month's unaudited reports. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Saffel to take it over from here.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Saffel?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Josh Saffel, and on behalf of the Finance Department of the City of Las Cruces, I'd like to present the unaudited financial statements for the period ended November 30th, 2020. And let's... There we go. So first off, we have our statement of net position. In the general fund, we had cash of $864,983 and receivables of $4,855, which gave us total assets of $869,838. We had liabilities of $87,614, revenues that were collected in advance of $55,501. So this left us with an unassigned fund balance in the general fund of $726,723. In the capital projects fund, we had cash of $29,798 and a restricted fund balance of $29,798. There were also capital assets, which were net of accumulated depreciation of $192,316. Now looking at our change in net positions for all funds. For the general fund, we see total revenues for the period at $1,598,733 and total expenditures for the period at $1,043,758. So the net change to fund balance was a positive $554,975. Looking at the capital projects fund, there was an expense of $1,767. And in capital assets, we recognized depreciation of $17,196. Looking at our budget to actual change in net position, our total revenue of $1,598,000 was at 46.9% of the budget. And our total expenditures of $1,043,000 were at 31% of the budget. For this time period, our budget parameter was 41.67%. So we see our total revenues were slightly above that, and our total expenditures were well under that. Now, if we look at our revenues and expenditures per month as a line graph comparison, we see for the most part, the expenditures were underneath the revenues until about October. But we see that in November, the revenues came up a little bit to almost match. So that seems pretty steady. We'll probably see that continue on. Looking at the percentage of total expenditures, again, our total expenditures were $1,043,758. Of that, 79% of that was made up by personnel expenses, 13% was made up by service expenses, 5% supplies, and 3% insurance. Repairs and maintenance and other costs were there, but when taken as a percentage, were minuscule at 0% of the budget. So that will conclude my presentation, and I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Saffel? No questions? I don't see any hands up. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Saffel. Looks like we're in good shape. Thank you. Okay. Have a nice evening. Next is the executive committee did not meet this month. Next is facilities. Cassandra Gandara, committee chair, do you have a report?
Thank you, Madam Chair. We didn't meet either. I believe Mr. Thacker was on leave.
Yes, he was.
And he can update on anything that related to the facilities at this point. Thank you.
We are doing great at the center. Despite me not being here, I think Bernice has done a fantastic, amazing job. Her and also Dr. Haddon and Paul Richardson have kept the place going. I've been available by email and phone and such, but they're doing a great job keeping up and going. We've had a managers meeting every week where we talk about some of the issues in the shelter. Our windows, we continue to find windows that are cracked or the seals are broken. And so we had to add 2 more windows to that quote that we had in the OBS area. So they've come in, they've taken measurements. So we're just waiting for that quote to get back. We got our quote back for our floors to be waxed and sealed, and it was around $3,000 to have that done. We decided we're going to go a little bit different route on that because of quality control, because of the way we want it done, type of way we're looking at probably doing it ourselves. We have the equipment to do it ourselves. And it'll also offer some overtime for that staff that has volunteered for it. And like I said, we'd like it to be done to our standards. And what that means is probably more polish or more wax, or, go up on the sides where it goes up on the wall, just different things that a normal job isn't quoted for. So that will be done hopefully by the end of the month. We'll be able to get that completed. It will save us some money. We can divert those funds somewhere else. So I believe that's all we have are just those items. So the facility is continuing to look good. The new building project, I believe, with the SAC or the opening of those bids are going to be happening. I think it's going to be in January. I remember the GoBond meeting correctly. Yes. There were some amendments that had to be done because the contractors were looking at minute items on that bid, and that's good because they're looking and seeing how much things are going to be. They want to give us an accurate amount, so that bid had to be amended several times. So I think it extended it out several weeks. So I think it's going to be in January. We're going to have that meeting to open up the bids. So that's exciting. To get bids and agreed on and start breaking some ground. That'd be great. That's all I have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thacker. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Mayor Pro Tem? Question? Yes.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Ellens?
Yeah, Clint, since Donahoe has left, has a replacement liaison been appointed?
David Dallahan, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. Eric, the assistant manager that's on now, Eric Enriquez, has been named an interim city manager.
No, he is a city manager, assistant city manager, not interim.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
He isn't the city manager. We're both wrong. He's not interim. He's actually assistant city manager. Oh, yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah. There was just a question as to whether he would be, in fact, because Ms. De Leon said early on that they're still calibrating positions. But my understanding, based on email I received, was that Mr. Enriquez would be the member, an ex officio from the city. Mr. Enriquez, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I can see, I think my screen is kind of dark, work on that. But yes, that is correct, Madam Chair, and thank you. Yes, I am the the new assistant city manager for the city of Las Cruces, and this will be one of the assignments that I have been given. And just to share with you all, when I was in a different municipality for about 3 years, I ran the animal service center there as a director. So have some experience with that and look forward to assisting and working in this capacity. So thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Enriquez, and welcome.
Hey, welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great. Okay, so, well, that was serendipitous. It wasn't on the agenda, but it was incidental to this report. So, so the groundbreaking for the new facilities, Mr. Thacker, will be más o menos more or less when? No way.
That's not been established yet.
But it's really moving along in spite of COVID. Yeah, great. Thank you. Next is the CIPP presentation. I believe Ms. Jean Gilbert is standing by for that.
Yes, hello, good afternoon, Animal Services Board of Directors and attendees. I'm Jean Gilbert, and I'm the Secretary for the Coalition for Pets and People. Here's a list of organizations that are represented in this month's report. The coalition, as you know, alternates the organizations that are featured. So ones that aren't highlighted this time will be in next month's report. Stats with information on the various organizations, programs, and services as has been made available to us is provided in your board members' packets. Thank you. And next slide, please. In addition to the listing here, the coalition has participated as members of the Animal Care Task Force for the 2+ years of existence of the group. And the coalition leadership recently gave input on the Animal Control Ordinance revisions, recommending that an animal resource needs team be established by the city with participation by animal control, shelter director, animal agency representatives, animal advocates, and community members. And the purpose of this team would be to sustain the dialogue and rapport that we have established with the task force and look at ways to help reduce shelter intake, expand resources for community cats, homeless and stray animals, support for animals who are victims of neglect and cruelty and other pressing welfare issues, because our shelter is truly a community owned situation and we all need to be invested and involved. Because the Animal Services Board meetings are largely for reporting purposes and do not actively involve pursuit of resources or interventions to solve animal welfare issues. This is the reason, one of the main reasons, and the background history with the task force is why the coalition believes that an animal resource team is appropriate and it is needed. And we hope that we can look to seeing that established in 2021. And another thing to share about the coalition is that we recently acknowledged David Dollahan's outstanding leadership of the task force and his service on the board of the ASCMV, and with congratulations to him on his retirement, if I can say the word. Okay, and next slide, please. Two Hearts, Four Paws is located in Radium Springs, and they provide care for about 40 resident dogs, including the two that are pictured here. Many of the dogs are seniors and hard to place and long-term residents. In addition to operating the animal refuge, Two Hearts, Four Paws advocates for stray and homeless, and they provide needed resources in an underserved community. And the next slide, please. Action Programs for Animals is offering half off their adoption fees for the month of December, and that, so it'd be half off their $50 fee for cats and half off their $75 fee for dogs. They are settled at their new location at 537 North Solano after remodeling and interior work. This new facility is a tremendous upgrade for them, allowing expansion of a few services such as boarding animals that are awaiting rescue and transport. And this is something they were not able to provide at their former facility. And next slide, please. APA has adjusted their pet food bank hours to the second Sunday of the month from 2 to 4 p.m. with safe drive-up distribution for pets, for people and animals with pets in need. They distribute an average of 10,000 pounds of pet food a month, and they serve approximately 50 families every week. And the next slide, please. Pictured is Kitten Mo, and I don't think you can see Miney, but there's a carrier below the gal. And this is Mo with his with their new mom. Also pictured is Rosie with her new family, adopted after a successful sleepover. APA reports an 80% success rate for their sleepover program, which is measured by the number of adopters. APA adopted 161 animals and transferred 89 for the months of January through November. APA's intake and adoption rates were lower for the month of November, and this is no doubt due to their moving to their new location. And next slide, please. Broken Promises Southwest. This slide highlights their life-saving work with rescue, foster, and TNR, trap, neuter, return, or release. Bukowski, who is pictured left, came to the shelter with a large abscess and needed immediate medical attention and is in care with and doing very well with Broken Promises now. The cats pictured center and right are 2 of 100 felines that Broken Promises has TNR'd this year. Okay, next slide, please. Broken Promises Southwest manages the cattery at the PetSmart store, and pictured are felines that were adopted in November. Broken Promises has adopted about 40 cats this year. They have an operating budget of more than $40,000 that's needed to cover the costs for their programs and their services. And next slide, please. Cherished Canines, the puppies pictured left, are part of a group of 16 that were in 6 Cherished Canine foster homes. And thanks to I'm Almost Home Animal Rescue and Bark House for the transport arrangements for these animals in November, they went to the Helen Woodward Animal Center in Southern California, where all the puppies will find homes, and some of them already have. And the puppies pictured right are bottle baby puppies. They were discovered in a litter that was thrown, a litter of puppies that was thrown in a feed bag and tossed in a field in Anthony. And this happened just a few weeks ago. Thanks to a Cherish Canines foster, all of these puppies are doing very well. And the next slide, please. Cherished Canines, Axel and Jean came to the rescue when they were 7 weeks old with the mom dog and 4 of the litter mates. Axel and Jean are the last of the litter to be adopted. Unfortunately, they were able to be adopted together on November 26th. Pictured right is a Bichon poodle mix found abandoned in the desert and discovered by a 10-year-old girl. Nelson suffered injuries to a leg that was caused by gunshot, and the leg had to be amputated due to nerve damage. But Cherish Canine said that didn't slow him down, and Nelson really won the hearts of a lot of people, and mostly his new mom, who drove all the way from Albuquerque to adopt him. Next slide, please. Cats Meow has taken in a lot of cats and kittens this year, and they've adopted close to 280 for the months of January through November. And that is really astonishing when you think about it. They've adopted over 40 cats for the month of November, and that includes these 3 that are pictured here. And the next slide, please. Hannah is one of many animals adopted through the John Anna County Humane Society's Pet for Seniors program, and they cover the adoption fees for animals adopted from our animal shelter by people who are age 60 or over. Koa Calispo couldn't put any pressure on her right hind leg. And so their family was able to qualify for received a voucher for veterinary care. Docs, thanks to a generous PetSmart charities grant and from their supporters, the John Anna County Humane Society has been able to maintain their animal relief fund for many years and helped our community a lot. In addition to holding virtual fundraisers, the John Anna County Humane Society is also holding podcasts. And just a couple more slides. The next one, please. The Humane Society of Southern New Mexico has 13 animals in the organization's foster care program. And they had they had 3 adoptions here recently, bringing the total to 20 year to date. So the adoptions are lower because of COVID. HSNM operates pet